Before smartphones, before laptops on every desk, before the internet lived in our pockets, there was a calculator that could remember. The first time you held a programmable calculator, it didn't feel like a tool, it felt like a revelation. Numbers no longer vanished the moment you pressed equals. They stayed. They waited. They obeyed sequences. They followed logic. For the first time, a machine didn't just calculate. It executed. You could solve an equation, store it, build on it, combine it with another idea, and then run the whole thing again with a single press. What once took pages of careful work suddenly unfolded step by step, silently, perfectly. It felt like power. Not the loud kind. The quiet kind. The kind that makes you realize something fundamental has shifted. Until that moment, calculation was reactive. You asked a question. The machine answered. End of interaction. The programmable calculator changed that relationship. Now you told the machine how to think. You weren't entering numbers anymore. You were encoding intention. You were translating reasoning into steps. You were discovering that logic itself could be stored, replayed, and reused. Without realizing it, you were programming. Most people didn't call it that. There were no flashy screens or friendly interfaces. No tutorials promising to turn you into a developer. Just a blinking cursor, a limited memory, and a manual thick enough to intimidate anyone who opened it. But the magic was immediate. You could chain equations, loop through conditions, reuse results, automate repetition. And when something went wrong, and it often did, the calculator didn't just give the wrong answer. It exposed your thinking. Every mistake was logical. Every error traceable. You learned not by memorizing formulas, but by correcting reasoning. That was the real gift. The programmable calculator didn't teach math. It taught thinking in systems. It trained an entire generation to break problems into steps, to anticipate outcomes, to debug their own assumptions. Long before coding became a buzzword, people were already learning its most important lesson. Machines do exactly what you tell them, nothing more, nothing less. That realization is intoxicating the first time it lands, because it changes how you see technology. The calculator stopped being an object and became a collaborator. Silent, precise, unforgiving, but loyal. It never forgot what you taught it. It never improvised. It waited patiently for instructions and carried them out without ego or distraction. For many people, this was their first experience with automation, not as something distant and industrial, but personal and intimate, something you carried in your bag. Something you trusted during exams, at work, and moments where precision mattered. It felt like a secret advantage. Others didn't know what it could do. They saw the same plastic shell, the same buttons, the same screen. But you knew there was more inside. Stored logic, compressed thought. A tiny, obedient mind. In a strange way, it reshaped confidence. Not because it made people smarter, but because it showed them they could make a machine smarter, at least in a narrow, well-defined way. That realization lingers. It stays with you long after the calculator itself is obsolete. And then, quietly, that era ended. Personal computers arrived. Software replaced buttons. Graphical interfaces hid logic behind icons and menus. Smartphones made calculation invisible, effortless, and disposable. Today, results appear instantly, but the process is concealed. We trust outputs without seeing steps. We accept answers without understanding how they were produced. Something was gained, speed, accessibility, scale, but something was lost too. The programmable calculator forced you to confront causality. You couldn't escape the logic. If the answer was wrong, it was because you were wrong. The machine simply reflected your thinking back at you, without mercy. Modern tools rarely do that. They optimize, they autocomplete, they abstract complexity away. And while that makes them powerful, it also makes them opaque. Fewer people today experience the moment when they realize, I can make this machine behave. That moment mattered. Because it wasn't about math. It was about agency. The programmable calculator was often the first time someone felt they were not just consuming technology, but shaping it. Not just using a system, but defining its behavior. That feeling, subtle, empowering, slightly dangerous, is what pulled many people toward engineering. Science, finance, research, and computing long before they had names for those paths. Looking back, it's easy to dismiss those calculators as primitive, limited memory, slow processing, tiny screens. But that misses the point. They weren't impressive because of what they could do. They were impressive because of what they revealed. That intelligence could be encoded. That logic could live outside the mind. That machines could carry thought forward in time. For a brief moment, holding that calculator, it felt like the future had arrived early and had chosen you to discover it. And maybe that's why the memory lingers. Not because of nostalgia for a device, but because of nostalgia for a feeling. The moment when technology didn't just serve you, it invited you to think differently. If you enjoy reflective stories about the quiet technologies that shaped how we think, subscribe to Talking Tech for more documentary-style explorations of our relationship with machines.